Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Travel Coach Network podcast. It is I, Sahar Rose Devore, the founder of the Travel Coach Network and the creator and instructor of the Travel Coach Certification Program. Today, we have a very lovely guest. We have Clare Pritchard. Clare is a life and travel coach who works with individuals who feel bored and stuck with the mundane life of the 9 to 5. She helps them break free of society's timeline and supports them to live out their travel dreams, no matter what the duration. Having always been asked herself how she afforded and had the confidence to travel, Claire uses these as two of her three pillars of her business. When people finish working with Claire, they feel more aligned with themselves, they feel confident in their abilities and their decisions, and they know that they are worthy of their trip. Claire, thanks so much for joining us on the Travel Coach Network podcast today. I'm excited to chat with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk too.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, tell us, where did your love of travel stem from?
So actually, I never had a love of travel when I was younger. It very much came when I went on my first trip. So growing up, so I'm in Manchester, the UK. So growing up, all our trips were over to Europe with the family, and they were often in, like all-inclusives or like big resorts, which obviously as a child is amazing. You go to kids club, have a good time, like you can't complain. And it was when I went to university and one of my best friends was like, let's go traveling. Let's all go traveling. And I was like, no, I'm not really that interested actually. And a group of them got together and said they were going to go to Thailand after our first year of university. And I was like, no, I'm not that bothered. Like, I'm just going to stay at home. And then a few more got booked on and a few more, and FOMO hit me hard then. And I was like, right, okay, I'm coming to Thailand then. And I wouldn't have been able to point to Thailand on a map. I would have been clueless, but I just didn't want to miss out on all the girls going away. So I went away to Thailand. We went away for 6 weeks and had an amazing time. Came back, did another 2 years at university, and my best friend again was like, let's go traveling. And I was like, no, I know, I'm not mad about it. I was very much like, I want to get a job. I want to be successful. I want to earn loads of money. That's society's path that it puts out for you. And then my friend ended up convincing me to go, and we said we'd go for about a year, and I came back 2 years later, and that was it. I was hooked then, and I don't know how I was never hooked on it before then, but that was the first time, that was the first trip where I was like, traveling, this is for me, totally.
That's so fun. I completely understand the FOMO that hit you when everyone else is going away. I hope that first trip really was a good time for you. Was there a trip that you would say throughout either your beginning stages of traveling through now that really transformed you or impacted you in some way?
Yeah, so I think that first trip when I was meant to go for a year, came back 2 years later. So I traveled with my best friend for the first 9 months, and then we got to Australia and she went home. So then I was on my own and I was like, okay, like now what do I do? So I was in Sydney at the time and I decided to fly west and go 16 hours north of Perth to kind of quite outbacky area. There was 2 girls that I'd met in the hostel in Sydney that I knew were there, but apart from that, I was pretty much just going on my own. And I think that being the solo trip, that being the time spent on my own, that's when I really was able to kind of like connect with myself, grow my confidence. I literally had to put myself out there, otherwise I'd be sat in my bedroom on my own. And it was that trip where nobody else knew me, no one knew anything of me, no preconceptions or anything. And I was able to just go in 100% and be myself. And I literally had the best 6 months ever. I've still got friends from that trip now. And it was those 6 months where I literally really fell into myself. And I just thought, like, these are friends because of who I am. And it really, really allowed me to have the confidence to just be who I was from that. And that was the trip. That was those 6 months there then that everything changed.
Yeah, as you're telling that story, I just remember as a solo female traveler myself, like that was just one of the many pieces of why I was obsessed with traveling solo, was like you meet these incredible people all around the world that truly make an imprint on you, but you're also traveling in a way that people get to know the real you, because you don't have to put on that facade of the social life back at home, or the responsibilities of like family, or, growing up in the community that people know you. And you really get to discover like who you are as a human being. And then the people who you meet along the way, and those organic relationships that you build, are really ones that, kind of support that truth beneath who you are. And I think that's a big component to why like solo female travel is such a huge industry, and a huge is so attractive to so many people, is like that sense of like freedom and finding where you fit into this world, and also just meeting people you otherwise wouldn't meet. But what inspired you to become a travel coach? Was there a catalyst to that, or where did that stem from?
So that stemmed from, so I was living in Iceland, and COVID brought me home. You thought, oh, it'll be 2 weeks and then we'll be able to go again. And then obviously 3 years later, I'm still home. But I ended up getting a job, and I was supporting young women into work education and training. And we had life coaches in who did sessions with them. And I was like, oh, a life coach. What's a life coach? I hadn't ever heard of it before. And I absolutely just loved the idea of it. I loved the idea that you believe that the human isn't broken, like the person has everything inside of them. They just need to find it, and you can support them. So I fell in love with that idea and decided to train to become a life coach. And I never really thought about niching. I wasn't really that bothered about niching down. As a life coach, it's always, what's your niche? What is your niche going to be? And I just wanted to help people. That was all it was. I didn't care who I was helping. I just wanted to help people. And then one day I was just sat, I'll do some doodling actually. And it just came to me like, I absolutely love traveling. Like, everyone asks me travel questions all the time. If anyone's going away, they'll always pop up to me. So that, why don't I go into travel? Like, is this a thing? What is it? And like, I had a Google of it, and I, at the time, didn't find much about it. And then obviously I found that the Travel Coach Network, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a thing, and it can be a thing for me as well. So I kind of just fell into it step by step, really. But it's just the most perfect thing for me to be doing, to be supporting people into doing something that I know will be life-changing for them. Like, can you get anything better than that?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to share though? Like, I know that you weren't a big fan of like niching down, and travel is such a broad topic as well. What exactly do you help people with?
Yeah, so my, I guess, niche down into travel is helping people break society's expectations of them. And I think that stems from the fact that that's definitely the path that I was going on before I went traveling. Success to me was being rich and having a good, well-paid job, and it would have been a big house. And that's definitely the path I was going down. But because I didn't know anything else, just because that's what society tells you to do. So now I focus on those people who maybe have gone into that path and they know they want to go traveling. It's always been a dream of theirs, or they're hitting burnout, or they're bored in their job. They think the job's changed, but actually, like, maybe they've changed, maybe they've grown and they need to go into something else. So now I support people who are in that stage and they just don't really know where to start, how to start, the confidence to make the decision, essentially, the money to get the money together. Because if you've been living a life of 9 to 5 and you know where your bills and what money you've got to spend, if you're now saving to go traveling, or if you're planning to do something else, it all changes. So that is where I'm focusing on now, is helping people who feel bored and stuck and burnt out to go and travel and live that dream that they've always had.
I can definitely see why you are a success in that, just because it's such a common problem that's happening across throughout the world. I'm in the US, and there's that burnout epidemic that was happening before COVID happened, but people were stuck in this cycle of, well, this is just my job, so I go to work and this is my routine, and you do what you do to make money, but yet the happiness wasn't there, or the fulfillment. And then COVID hit, and it gifted people the opportunity and the time to reflect on what mattered most to them, what made them happy, is spend time with their family and reevaluate their values and who they wanted to work for and what they wanted to make out of their life. And that also rolled into what, the travel industry, where people went and how long they traveled for and who they traveled with. All of this had a more purposeful shift to it. So I can definitely see that need, especially as the remote work industry booms too. People trying to find that balance of like, how do I travel? How do I make this my life and lifestyle while still being productive in my work, but also having this the sense of freedom and flexibility of where I am working from, right? But I know you also focus on money mindset. Can you talk more about that and what do you mean by money mindset?
Yeah, definitely. So money mindset are attitudes and beliefs that we have about money. So we learn them when we're younger. Around the age of 6, like you're a sponge, you're absorbing so much information. So how your parents act with money, how you were taught about money in school, how your friends act with money, and all these different interactions that you have form your money stories. And these money stories impact how you think, feel, and act with money. So, for example, if your parents would say money doesn't grow on trees, that will then impact how you view money now. So it might make you want to save loads and loads of money because you're programmed to think that money doesn't come that easily to you. And then as well as the stories, it creates feelings for you. And then those feelings also impact how you spend. So, for example, if you heard that rich people are greedy, it can subconsciously deter you from making a lot of money because you don't want to be associated with being rich and greedy. And then so once you've got these stories, it then impacts how you spend money. And so essentially the money mindset is working through these stories to try and reprogram your beliefs and look at how you spend money so that you can then change that in your life to suit the life that you want to be living.
That makes total sense. Money mindset is something that we all have to work on, to some degree, especially in the world of business. That's something that challenged me growing up as an only child, a single mom, and I was been very frugal growing up. And then I learned to master the art of budget solo travel. And when I say budget, like actually budget, sleeping on airport floors. So I didn't have to spend another night at a hotel that, took a piece of my budget, or hostel. And but that I feel like that experience also rolled into my money mindset around business too. And that's something that a lot of people feel fearful of, is investing in their own education, investing in their own business growth, and whether it's mentorship or programs or communities or opportunities or events or anything like that. So I think I love that you're focusing on money mindset, because in some degree, we all have some sort of, thought process based on how we grew up around it or the environment we're in around money. But what common negative money blocks do you hear people often have, and how can they be shifted towards a more positive outlook? Any examples in that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that one of the main ones is that money is the root of all evil. Like, we are so ingrained to think that money's bad and it's such a taboo subject and we shouldn't talk about it. But money is not a bad subject. Like, money just is. Like, money is an exchange. Money is energy. And if you think about salaries at work or in your day job, people are told not to talk about the salaries. The people are told not to find out what other people have. And the only reason that is because it benefits the company. The company can get 2 people starting at the same time and put them on different salaries to benefit them. So actually, it's not that the money's bad, it's that they're going to be saving money from that. And now it's a situation that if you do talk about money and you earn a lot, or you're a show off, and if you don't earn that much, oh, you're not worthy, or like, I can't believe you don't earn so much money. So because money has this taboo, we now don't talk about it, which just increases the taboo. So that's definitely one of them. I think another one as well is, I'm not good with money. And I hear that a lot, is like, oh, I'm not good with money, but it needs to be changed to, I'm going to give myself the chance to be good with money. I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and the lady had always said, I'm not good with money, I can't do money. But actually, she was in a relationship with someone who took control of the money. He did all the money. And when they broke up, it was just that she'd never had the chance to show that she was good with money. So she wasn't bad with money. She didn't actually know whether she was good or bad. She just had never had the option to show that. So it's reframing all these different beliefs that you have about money. And it's looking at, so that I'm not good with money, like, is it a belief or is it fact? Like, is it true? Can you prove that it's true? Or do we then know that it's a belief, and how can we reframe that belief into a more positive way that gives you the opportunity to do what you want to do with money?
That makes total sense. It reminds me of, like, when I hear about travel coaches who work with, women who are divorced or went through a breakup, and they've always been dependent on someone else. So someone else always took charge of organizing the trips, planning the trips, and executing the trips. And they were always with somebody traveling. And now they're afraid, and they're like, I can't travel on my own, or that's not safe for me, or, I'm not able to do that, or I don't want to be lonely on my trip. But yet you never had the opportunity to see that you are capable of going on a solo trip, and that this is an experience that can really change and transform you and benefit you. You just haven't given that chance and had that mindset around that. So I see a lot of correlation within money mindset and just traveling itself too. But can you share some practical tips for developing a more healthier mindset around money?
Yeah, so the first thing is increasing your awareness. So the thing is, whether you've got £20, £200, £2 million in your bank account, you have a money mindset. And it's not right, it's not wrong, it just is. It's just beliefs that you've learned. So it's becoming aware of what your money mindset is. So that's the first thing that I'll do with my clients, is figure out what that money mindset is. So looking at questions. So how do you feel about money? How do you feel about rich people? Why do you spend money the way that you do? What are your spending habits? When you think about money, what's the first thing that you think of? And all these different things will then start to show these different beliefs that people have about money. And then it's also becoming aware of your actual spending. So what money is coming in and out? I was speaking to someone the other day, and I was like, do you know what comes in and out of your account, like, each month? And they were like, yeah, ish. So it went from like a really confident yes to an ish very quickly. And if you can go from that confident yes to an ish very quickly, like, really what is coming in and out of your money? And like, it's fine. I mean, it's so easy to tap nowadays. Money just goes out of your account before you even realize it. I think, is it you spend 25% less when you pay with cash because you're doing that physical transaction. So becoming really aware of what you've got coming in and out. Create a money monitor. I give a money monitor to my clients, and we take a look at what's going in and out, because actually, here's a story. One of my clients that I've been working with earns a good bit of money, doesn't really save much, not too sure why. So we took a look at the spending, and he said that he spends like £5 to £7 on lunch a day when he's working. Oh, so it's just £5 or £7. When we added that up to a year, because he's freelance, that was the equivalent of an extra 2 weeks not working. He was spending 2 weeks worth of wages on food a year just from tapping, just because, didn't prep food or didn't do the big shop. And as soon as he was aware of that, and he was like, okay, it's not just a £5 a day, it's 2 weeks worth of annual leave, that mindset just completely shifted. And then he was able to do his big shop, and then he was able to prep his lunches, because he had that awareness of what the money actually came to as a total in a year. So awareness is definitely the biggest one, but also be kind to yourself. You're about to learn something new. You're about to change beliefs that you've had for however long, depending on what age you are. So don't be too hard on yourself. And I think a really good visualization is if you're looking at a field and it's all overgrown, and you're walking through one same path that's trodden down all the time. It's super easy to do that. You can see where you're going, walk through the path. But if you're going to try and take a new path through this overgrown field, that first one's going to be a little bit of bushes, stamp things down, stamp it down. It's going to be a bit hard. But the more times you go down that new path, the easier it will get. And that's what it's like with changing your beliefs. It's not going to be super easy and you're not going to do it overnight, but the more you practice and the more that you do the same thing over and over again, the easier that it will get for you, and you will learn those new beliefs.
Yeah, and I can see how that even aligns with traveling itself too, right? Like the first trip that you take, or even if it's a solo trip, if you're prepping it yourself, if you're going on this solo trip, there's so many other roadblocks you could be faced with that you didn't know. But the more you do it, it becomes second nature. And that's always something that I've experienced, and I'm sure maybe you have too, is traveling on your own, is that you look back and you're like, who is that person? How did I do that? But like I knew as soon as I packed that bag and I got into that airport going into my next trip, I just like come into this avatar of myself that I just knew what to do all the time. So it's the same kind of thing, is like you have to try these different things in life in order to either, and I heard this quote recently from a mentor of mine, is that practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent. And I thought that was really impactful too, because you can apply that to whether it's your money mindset and trying new things and challenging yourself for traveling the world as well. I love hearing all these different ways that you help your clients. Are these all incorporated in the programs that you offer? Can you tell us a little bit of how you packaged your coaching services into these different programs?
Yeah, so the main program that I offer is my 3 to 6 month program, and I created it around money mindset and confidence and self-worth as well. But money mindset and confidence were always the two things that people kept asking me about, and people would be like, how did you have the confidence to do it? Like, I could never be that confident, and really didn't think they could do it. And truthfully, the night before my first big trip, I cried myself to sleep. I was like, what on earth am I doing? Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. I'm going to get attacked. I'm going to get mugged. All these bad things are going to happen to me. And I was absolutely terrified. And that's now something that I never really told anyone that, because, I wasn't really mad keen on everyone knowing it. But when I have told people, they've been so surprised, and they're like, it's actually really good to hear that someone who has done so much traveling did have those fears and still has those fears. Whenever I go on a trip, I'm always a bit nervous, but because I'm pushing my comfort zone each time, I'm doing something different, and it's so normal to have those fears. I always say to my clients, you'll never feel 100% ready, because you'll always have the quick thoughts of doubt or the fears or whatever. But when you finish working with me, you will be 100% ready, if that makes sense. So, and it's just building on that confidence, and it's normalizing the fears. It's normalizing that these different things will come up into your head, and these thoughts will try and stop you from going. But it's just your brain protecting you. Like, your brain is wired for safety, isn't it? So when all these thoughts are coming into your head, it's your brain protecting you. So that's why I've really looked into the confidence side of it. And then the money mindset side is, again, because people were like, how did you ever afford it? I could never afford it. And it's just by doing work and, looking at the £5 lunches a day, there you go, there's money saved, or looking at what beliefs you have about money can change the way you spend, and then there's money saved. So it kind of organically grew that way, because I knew that that's what people were asking me. And then one of my other pillars is self-worth. And I think that is something that's really important. And you spoke about it earlier, about investing in a coach or investing in a program. But when you're traveling, you're investing in yourself. And if you see that traveling trip as, oh my gosh, that's going to cost me £1,000, you're not really going to be keen for it. But if you're going to see that traveling trip as, I'm going to go and climb Machu Picchu, which is something that I have wanted to do for years, you're then seeing the value in that rather than the cost. And that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do with these different things. So by the end of the working with me, the clients then have the confidence to go. They, I do hope they've booked their flights depending on their situation. They've got the money, they're saving money, and they know that they're worthy of the trip. They know that they are worthy of that investment, and that it will never be something that they regret. I mean, of all the people that you've ever interviewed, has anyone ever said, oh, I really did regret that trip, I didn't really get anything from it? It's just not something you hear, is it?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever through the podcast in life ever encountered anyone who regretted taking a trip anywhere. If anything, it's quite the opposite. They're so glad they did, even if it took a bite out of their budget because they weren't working on their money mindset around that. But I love how you're mentioning all of the value points in it. And that's something that's really important for travel coaches to recognize, is that empowerment side of helping people look past that, because we hear all the time people having these excuses of, I can't go on that trip, it's too expensive, or, it just doesn't fit in our budget, or, we just don't have the time to do this. All of these mental blocks that people have all the time, and very avid travelers and coaches hear this all the time too. So it's working through those and having them shift their mindset, just like they're shifting the mindset around money, they're also shifting the mindset of the value of this trip and what that can do for their mental health, their well-being, their relationships, their mood, everything. So that's really important. And I love that you shared that you cried during your first couple of trips, because I did too. So I've been to over 84 countries. So I started traveling in 2010, and my first trip was Western Europe. And then right after that, I came home, repacked my bag, and went to Central America. Those 2 trips, I distinctly remember lying in bed at night at the homes that I was staying at in Ireland and in Costa Rica, and crying myself to sleep and being like, what am I doing? How am I going to last for as long as I plan to go for? And, that's just one of those hurdles that you go through and you overcome. But that's the power of travel. It debunks all of these fears and thoughts that you have around your capabilities and your confidence. So working on your confidence is something that I love that you're helping people with. And can you share, how do you find your clients? How do you attract your ideal clients to you?
Yeah, so I think it stems a lot from conversations. I mean, there's the social media side of it, and there's putting all your content out, but you can put content out, but if you're not talking to anyone about it, if you're not creating those conversations, you're not gonna find any clients. So, I mean, I was out for dinner the other night with some of my best friends, and he brought his new girlfriend along, and straight away we were having a conversation then about money mindset. And she's not essentially like mad on traveling, but the money mindset was there straight away. And I just think it's, no matter where you are, no matter what situation it is, no matter what situation you're in, there's always someone to talk to. And me and my friend actually say this, who I met when I was traveling, that no matter who you meet, they will always have one piece of useful information for you. So it's trying to find that one piece of useful information. So I think it's just being open and having conversations with people. And I think being vulnerable as well. I work on money mindset because my money mindset was rubbish, and I didn't know I had a money mindset, and I didn't know money mindset was a thing. So that's why I work with it. And by being open and saying, like, I would spend so much money I couldn't save, but now it's a different story. It allows people to see that it can happen and you can make that change. And I think the same with the confidence. Like, I cried and I still get nervous now, and that's just what it is. They're feelings, and the feelings will pass, and you'll work through it, and you'll feel so much better afterwards. But being honest and vulnerable with people really, I think, shows the reason why you're doing it. Like, this is such a passion of mine, and I think it's because I've been through that, and I know it's probably something that stops other people from going through it, which is why you choose to be vulnerable. So yeah, I think conversations, but also content. Like, I never realized I'd become a bit of a content creator when I became a life coach or a travel coach. It was definitely something that I've learned, and something that I'm picking up and still learning, because things change, and it's fun. It's fun to make content. So yeah, working on the content and having meaningful conversations with people to see how that spikes up on what it creates.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's really just showing up in a variety of ways that feel, good for you and authentic to you, and taking, the opportunities when you can, like you said, those conversations, and being proud that you have a business and what you do, right? And sharing that. You just never know where your next client will come from. Well, Clare, I'm loving having this conversation with you. I really, really admire all of the work that you've done in the world of travel coaching, and how you help your clients. where can people learn more about what you do and follow you?
So I'm on all the social media, so TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I'm at CP Travel Coach. So if you type that in, you'll find me on all the social medias, and give me a follow, send me a message. I'm always super interested as to why people follow me, what travel it is to them, what they're interested in. You know, I like to connect with the audience rather than just have random followers follow me. So if you are listening, you're interested, follow me, have a chat. I love meeting people. Like, it's one of the best parts of traveling. So getting to do it through this is also amazing as well.
Wonderful. We will be putting all of the socials that Claire just mentioned into the show notes. And I always like to end, Claire, on, do you have a fun fact about yourself? And it doesn't have to be business or travel related that you can share with the audience.
Yeah, so well, it's definitely going to be travel related. So I was traveling from Panama to Colombia through the Sandblast Islands a couple of years ago, and we ended up being on a sailboat, and our captain had had a few too many beers and was having a solid snooze instead of driving the boat. The lady who was working on there cooking our food was really seasick because the waves were wild. And I ended up driving the boat for about 4 hours through the night. Captain would wake up every now and again, take a look at his little, I'm not sure what it was, whether we were going in the right direction, and would give me the nod and go back to sleep. And I just had my head focused on this star and just sailed this boat to Colombia whilst praying at the same time.
Oh my God. I hope you write like an ebook or a post on that, or share that story, because I'm sure there's details in there that you haven't mentioned that, what an experience that is. Who can say that they've done that? That's crazy. But thankfully you were there and you managed to sail the sailboat. Well, Claire, thank you so much for being on the Travel Coach Network podcast today. It was a true pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.
Thank you. And everyone, be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Travel Coach Network. Learn more at thetravelcoachnetwork.com. Come give us a hello. We look forward to having you in our TCN global community on Facebook, and also possibly having you as a guest on our podcast. If you know anyone who might be interested in becoming a travel coach or downloading the free beginner's guide to travel coaching, please head to the show notes or send us a message and send them our way to our podcast. We truly appreciate it. And until next time, my fellow wanderers, bye for now.